Welcome, folks. This is the One Great Work Warriors. I'm here with Derek, Jerry, Brandon, and Jim. And today we're going to talk about the many different shades of moral relativism. Moral relativism is a topic that was bridged many times in our discussions and keeps popping its ugly head up. And Jim, this time, is going to lead us off with a little introduction on why we're talking about that today. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so moral relativism is a term that you can bring it up and people have no idea what it means, right? And like Chris, me and you were speaking the other day and how it gets frustrating when we use this language and the people don't even understand what these words mean. And myself included, it took me a minute to get my head around these terms. And these aren't like relativism is not a word that is like used daily. In at least in my life, I've never heard people use it, like and so that's like a frustrating aspect of trying to teach this stuff. Like, and we're always trying to teach about morality as the solution, and then people's kind of like eyes glaze over when you say moral relativism or so I kind of like call it the gray area. I've heard that used before, but whenever I am talking about like how morality is, people say morality is relative. It's like that's the gray area. It's like people are arguing, oh, so you think everything is black and white, and that's always their justification for like why things are the way they are, and there really is a lot of like gray area when it comes to um I want to say when it comes to morality, but like, there's things that they can point to, and they use it as justifications, and what I found is it's just a way for them to get away from having to think about what moral relativism really is, and then so, like, one example you could say, like, say someone's about to get hit by a car, and you grab that person, you just slam them on the ground. You hurt that person, but you save their life. But so you say like the person who's arguing with you will say like, so it's not okay to like cause harm to that person if you have to save their life. And that's just one example, but somehow in their mind that makes it okay for there to be no such thing as right and wrong. And when you could also ask them, do you think that there is such thing as right and wrong? And most people would say yes. And you ask them like, where did that come from? And they don't really ever think about it. Um, but that's what we're trying to point out is that if they're if people don't believe that um, if people believe, sorry, if people believe that there is no such thing as right and wrong, then they're also saying that there's no such thing as truth, right? Like one example that I kind of pounded over the winter on Instagram just for the hell of it, just to put it out into the universe. I took an example of how like marijuana is legal in New York. On one side, I had like a picture of a girl smoking a joint with a cop right there with the thumbs up. And then on the left side, the Pennsylvania side, it's illegal and there's a guy getting arrested. So they're both doing the same exact thing. And but the belief is that there's no such thing as right and wrong because it's okay for her to do it, but it's wrong for him to do it to him. And over and over again, people would comment, well, it doesn't matter. Like you could just move to another state. Like it's all this kind of like stupid nonsense stuff. And I'm like, they're not. And above it, I also had written moral relativism. Nobody said a single word or asked about what moral relativism is. It also said right and wrong above it. And no one said anything about right and wrong. They just said stuff about marijuana being legal and that kind of stuff. They always thought it was like I was trying to make a big deal that like marijuana should be legal in Pennsylvania. They weren't getting the point that how ridiculous it is that the same exact thing is can be right on one side of the line and wrong on the other only because you believe it and you don't even see how that's a mind virus. And like that's another thing. It's like we can't tell people they have a mind virus because they don't like to hear that either. So, but it's really what we are trying to bring as a solution is the awareness that it is the number one reason, it is the root cause of why the world like that for humanity is so messed up. If you don't believe that right and wrong are equal for everyone, you're always going to have people ruling over you. And a lot of people, when you ask them, do you think anyone has the right to rule over you? They'll always say no. Well, the reason why they do is because you believe in moral relativism, that there's no such thing as right and wrong. And you don't even realize that you're in contradiction with yourself because you don't think that other people have the right to rule over you. And in nature, they don't. In reality, in truth, no one has that right to do that. No one. We're all people. There's no other people who are better than you who can take um, authority over you. But the reason why, and it is complicated, but we've been so programmed to believe in this shit that we don't think about it. Like, because there's always is that gray area. The gray area exists, it's real, but there's never a justification for another person to take ownership over you. It, you allow it by believing in this moral relativism, this gray area, because it can get complicated and it's too much of a mind fuck for you to sort it out. It really is a mind virus. And you know, for me it took quite a while to work it out, but I think it's worth bringing to people's attention that we are suffering so hugely from this mind virus. And I want to see a better planet. Not even, it doesn't even have to be in my lifetime, but as far as next generations, like to regenerate, like and evolve consciousness, I think it's worth it to be delusional enough to think that we can do that. Like, why the hell not? So hopefully, it's always hard to make sense, um, because it's a tough one for people to work out, but it's really not that simple. I mean, it's not that difficult. It's really, really simple. If you're able to admit it, you know. Um, but I digress. The whole thing is maybe a simpler way of saying moral relativism is to call it the gray area, but the gray area is a mind virus. All right, I'll pass it to Derek.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, and yeah, thanks for bringing this subject up. I was thinking about doing some little thirst trap of being, with the top off, but I got that Joe Murray charcoal gray, lovely hip hop. and also a member of the One Great Work Network. And yeah, we post our videos on that website as well. And the last one we did fits right into what we're going to be talking about today. In the red tape of legality. I mean, it's created so many gray clouds of shit over all of us. And are we not fucking sick of this? It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it's tied in with the technocratic, transhumanist, static, and all that. But yeah, like brushing up on the subject, like, oh, what are people talking about on the internet and YouTube, or ScrewTube rather, about like moral dilemmas and gray stuff, whatever. I mean, it was very underwhelming, and it it pisses me off to see all these AI generated fucking the slop fest of it all. And most of these motherfuckers don't even spell check their fucking shit. They're so fucking lazy, so fucking pathetic. And it's a nice projection of them being so fucking lazy that they're not even, initiated into like real truth seeking as well. They're asking, grok and whatever the frock. And congratulations, anyways. Not yeah, it's easy to digress on, like the causal factors of why people think, there's all this gray area and stuff. And you've seen the recent phenomenon with the video that we touched on of, people cheering on the anti-hero and the villains and shit like that, excuse me. And you see that with the movies like the Batman, where the Joker, if people remember that movie, I think it was the Return of the Dark Knight or whatever, with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger, who played like the best Joker ever. Sorry, Jack Nicholson, but he had something where it's like you can either save these people on this boat or save the city or something like that. And it goes back to that one thing, that the classic example that people put into like moral dilemma of having to make a choice between two things of, there's a train riding on a track where it's going to run over this one person tied to the tracks, or you can shift the track that goes in another direction, but it kills all the people on the train. It's like, who makes this shit up anyways? And why are people so dualistic on this? And there's just like, okay, there's dichotomies, of course, but there's a third option, fourth option of so much stuff in life, excuse me. How many manufactured dilemmas are out there due to Hegelian dialectics? People create fucking problems to manufacture reactions because they have, quote unquote, solutions to further enslave us and shit like that, and make the waters even more murkier or grayer, right? In the fucking miasma, the Maya illusions, delusions, and all that shit. But yeah, the majority of content out there talking about ethical or moral dilemmas, the gray areas of morality and such, are fucking pathetic. Question: are a lot of gray area talking points about governmental laws and measures, cultural etiquette, religious doctrines, and like all these other causal factors, instead of just commentating on the effects of the stuff, when people aren't initiated into the occult to really understand things on a cosmic history basis, where there is actually a form of fucking evil. People get caught up in this gray area of like, oh, there's not really good and evil, and you could see it from like the both sides of this false fucking dualistic overlay in this reality. Sorry, hearing some cats fight out there. I think they're digging what I'm saying, but a lot of people try to give examples of gray diarrhea within a dualistic limited frame, a dialectic, the dichotomy, etc. Like I mentioned. I think people get caught up in gray area bullshit when arguing about fights, The victims, victimizers, aggressors, defenders, when they miss the total point of who initiated one's, rights being violated upon, and committing transgression of natural law, uh, a form of theft of one's property, and their property is their rights, their well-being, and all these things, the land that they occupy on, and all these things, and that's a microcosm of an individual. You need to take it to a nation. How many people go into other nations and fuck shit up? How many people are doing that right now and not getting held accountable? How many people are fucking natives to their own lands and getting legally fucked in the ass and paying out the nose to pay for fucking law enforcers? What's, people are saying there's gray area and stuff, and like liberals are, trying to suicidically have compassion for rapists and shit like that. And there's so many people out there commentating on the surface level and having to use the word grape and all this stuff. They're self-censoring themselves because they're not going to get their fucking monetized video version of this motherfucking shit when people aren't calling this shit the fuck out like they fucking should be. And understanding, like black and white, truth or falsehood, or, don't get caught up in the racial black versus white. No, it's not about that. You can say red versus blue, fucking purple versus violet, whatever. It's just a way of saying a truth versus a fucking lie, because that fucking exists, just like good versus fucking evil. People get so caught up in between and don't understand the law of fucking polarity, let alone the other 7 hermetic principles, especially the fucking care that needs to be activated within one's heart to be operating from that heart-based intelligence. So without further ado, Chris Jansen, how you doing, brother? Rant over, right?
Trying to get my cursor on that unmute button there. Yeah, moral relativism. A set of words together mean a different thing than either of the words by themselves. So take apart moral and relativism. The word moral itself, we've talked about this in the past, comes from, moralis is one of the etymological roots. But it comes down to the word moral itself has to do with habit, customs, things that are repeated and done, right? Like that's not necessarily that. There is some variable in that, is I guess where I'm going with that, and that the word itself, by itself, moral, can mean customs or habits. And if you look it up in any dictionary, you don't necessarily get a decisive answer, on what's immoral, and what's immoral. However, we've gone to great lengths to add, when we're talking about morality, this other term, objective, and objective meaning that we're taking ourselves out of it and saying that this is like looking at it from an omnipotent point of view, or looking at it from not my personal feelings involved, looking at it from just a general point of view, that there should be some common denominator in this universe of what's acceptable and what's not when it comes to human behavior. Well, there's still many people out there will argue that there's not anything objective in this universe, and that it only is, subjective. Everything is our experience. And so this is a major philosophical disagreement that has existed in the last few hundred years for sure, and probably much further than that, judging by the consequences of what we're seeing. Humans acting out as if there's not a moral, any moral certainty in this universe when it comes to human behavior and how we treat one another. So humans have been experimenting with wonderful things like murder and trespass and coercion, and how wonderful they've worked out for us, right? We have all these stories of, you know, genocide and nations being destroyed and people moving from one place to another and conquering one group after another. And then we have this wonderful thing that we call slavery, right? Isn't it great? You know, I'm being facetious, I'm being sarcastic, but really, when you think about it, the history of humankind, even the way they teach it in mainstream school, which, you know, I feel like probably a lot's left out in that way, but you know, it's a history of sadness and warfare and destruction. And not to say there's not lot of love and good in there. People are obviously doing some good to keep propagating our race, to the fact that we're still here around and maybe more of us than ever. It's hard to say. Um, what I'm getting at is, at a certain point, every being questions, what are we doing here? Why is this happening? What are we experiencing? And that's really where my focus has always been, is to try to come back to that question. Why? You know, why are we doing this? Why would humanity keep repeating these terrible things? And so I guess the argument I would make with these philosophers who argue for relativism, and let me just explain briefly what that argument is. There are actually philosophers that will actually argue that moral relativism is a better description for our reality. And their explanation is because morality depends differently on the way that people interpret it. And you go to a different place, like Jim was saying, and people have certain rules that don't apply in a different place. And so they're saying, based on that reality that we're experiencing, that obviously it is variable. And it is being made that way. But here's the question: does that really change the outcome of what reality dictates? And one of the arguments I saw, these two philosophers I was looking up when I was doing a little research, one is this named Wang. And Wang says human beings need morality to live together, so it's a necessity. And but there may be several workable ways to organize life and our morals in that process. And since we can do that successfully in different ways, morality therefore is plural, and then there's different ways of handling morality. However, you know, I find problems with that argument because humans keep having these problems. And maybe there's just one way that they haven't figured out, and that's why we keep having those problems. Okay, I don't know. Here's Harmon's argument: morality is not discovered like physics. It's generated through human agreements, shared expectations, and social practices. Therefore, moral truth is relative to those agreements, not objective in itself. So you got like people out there in the world right now still making the argument that reality doesn't exist from my point of view. To me, that's like saying, I control the stars. You know, all I have to do is look. If I stand over here, the stars are further away. You know what I mean? Like, it's relative to how I feel about it or what we decide to do. However, it doesn't actually point out that just like water changes its position, just when any kind of harm happens in this world, there's always consequence. And that's really what natural law is pointing towards. Not asking you to believe, but proving over and over that everything we experience is an outcome, a result of the things that came before that, cause and effect, as Derek said, hermetic principles. And we've been experiencing a lot of trauma and lack of freedom and lack of ability to not have warfare, right, to reach a state of peace, because humans keep inflicting damage, harm upon one another in so many ways and enslaving each other. One of the most heinous types of trespassing that can be done is to actually claim ownership of other people or groups of people's decisions. And as long as we carry that out, it's really hard for us to see what would it be like if we didn't do that and experience what the opposite of moral relativism would be, which is really hard to understand because we've only ever experienced moral relativism in this lifetime because we've been born into slavery. And that authoritarian regimes have been accepted over and over. from history for so long that we don't know what it would be like to live in a place that didn't do that. And so that's what makes it so hard to talk to people about, is it me that's creating the stars moving? You know what I mean? Because look, when I move, it looks like they're moving. I feel like that's a way to describe what Harmon and Wong are basically saying, that we create the rules of right and wrong for humans. And then, but I'm trying to point out that it's the consequences that tell us whether that was right or wrong, and we don't create the consequence. You know, the consequences are a result of our actions. Well, I hope that point is clear to someone out there in listening land, and I'll pass the mic to Jerry.
Thank you, Chris. That was a very interesting observation about someone thinking that they created the stars or control the stars because they move back, that therefore it is proof of them controlling the stars. It's reminding me of some sort of solipsism in there, thinking that they're the creator of the existence or the reality. So, yeah, as far as this topic goes, one thing that came up, Chris, as you were talking, was perhaps for a future discussion, we can talk about the origins of humanity, because I think that kind of ties into all of this. Is how did we even get to this place? I mean, obviously something happened. So I don't know. I feel like that's a good conversation to have. But regarding moral relativism, I think from what I've heard, it's very surface level. It's, oh, different cultures have their own version of morality, therefore it's relative. It's not objective. It's like they haven't even gone to the second or third layer of thinking that just because a bunch of people have different, like their own version of morality, that doesn't mean that there is not an objective morality. Therefore, the people thinking that morality is relative, it's completely false. So the whole, oh yeah, marijuana is legal in New York, but it's illegal in Pennsylvania. I think we kind of talked about that in the last discussion where we were saying how authoritarianism is bullshit and man's law versus natural law is, man's law leads to chaos. It's based in an illusion. Natural law is based in agape love. That there are these laws, as you were saying, Chris, that are embedded in the universe, and we can come to understand them. So it's not about making them up. It's they are discovered, and so morality. There's choices, as I think Derek was saying. So morality can be objective, relative. You can even say subjective or amoral. Relative is full of contradictions. Let's weed that out. Amoral, it doesn't work. So it's like you're left with objective morality. And I want to distinguish it from, say, a religious objective morality, because the Bible told me so. This is what's moral. No, I'm talking about true objective morality, which you come to the understanding by understanding what property rights are. I think we already touched on that. So I own my body. I'm in control of my body. You cannot eat for me. I do that myself. If you basically violate my property, that is a wrong. And therefore, anything that is not a wrong is a right. So it's very black and white. We're talking about the gray areas. I think it just requires some thinking. Okay, this happened. Let's talk about the train, for example. I'll do this in real time. So a person is faced with two options, right? In this case, and as you were talking about, there's more options, of course. So either kill or murder, I guess kill this person, tied up, whatever, or go to another lane and then like he ends up killing the 5 people. But it's just like it requires some thinking. Is this person like in control? Like, because if they're not in control, then they're not actually murdering the people. But anyways, it just requires some thinking. There's an answer to this is what I'm getting at. It's not, oh, you can never know. That's what do you even call that? That's just like some solipsistic shit. I don't even know if that's the right term, but like truth exists, so you can come to find out whether something is moral or not. So people that say morality is relative, obviously they haven't done much thinking about it. And the people that think that way, when you ask them questions and throw back their idea at them, they're not even gonna be able to say anything. They're just gonna kind of realize that their argument is really illogical, and they can either kind of refine that and come to understand objective morality, or they can kind of keep living in ignorance. And I want to hear what Brandon has to say.
I really am going to have to try to keep my composure on this because there is no more important topic to talk about than what we are talking about right now. There's no more topic, there's not another topic that probably will enrage me than this topic of moral relativism. And the only gray area that exists is the gray matter in our neocortex, our brain, and our spinal cords. That is the part that's, that helps in memory and making reasonable, logical decisions and movement. And that is also the part that is damaged in most people. And that's why they believe in this bullshit of moral relativism. Because they have brain fucking damage. They're not intelligent. So, and Jim, in that half-assed baked argument that you brought, where is the loss of property rights? Where's the theft? Where's the coercion? Where's the rape? Where's the murder? Where's the trespass? Where's the rape? Where's the deceit? Again, these people don't have the correct knowledge to accurately discern information. That's why I say there is no gray area when it comes to morality. Again, boil it down to 2 individuals on the island. 2 individuals. Okay? That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Do you have a right to do this behavior when there's only 2 individuals? Is this action, is this behavior inherently connected to the 7 wrongdoings that we have talked about and many other natural law teachers have talked about? If they're not connected to it, if there's no loss of property rights, then it's not a wrong. So there may be some harm that comes out of it, but it's not the initiation of harm. That's what people can't fucking grasp, the initiation of harm. No one ever fucking said about causing harm. There's a lot of things that can cause harm, but it's not the initiation of harm. There are a lot of things like if 2 people or their free will judgment decide to go in the ring and box each other, that can cause harm, but it's not wrong because they agreed to it. This is simple fucking basic understanding, people. Like we're dealing with brain damaged people. We're dealing with dumb people. They don't have true intelligence. It's not that fucking hard. It really isn't. But they don't have the prerequisite knowledge to make accurate, logical discernment when it comes to behavior. They haven't even analyzed behavior. They won't even look at fucking behavior and the consequences that follow in manifestation. So let's not bullshit around the fucking bush, people. Let's call moral relativism what the fuck it actually is. It's the satanic mindset. Let's call it what it is. It's the fucking satanic mindset. And I'm not going to dance around the bush with this bullshit. Because people want to call it these cute fucking words. No, let's call it what the fuck it really is. The satanic mindset. And anyone who buys into this bullshit, you have the satanic mindset. And anyone who spews this bullshit, you will spew the satanic fucking ideology. And people are so fucking dumb because they'll hear that word and they automatically associate with Christianity. Again, brain damage people. When you look up the etymology of the word Satan, a word that predates Christianity, what do you have? What is it defined by? The adversarial force, one who plots against, one who goes against another. Well, this force has been described in like every tradition since man started, breathing. So it predates Christianity. So when I'm talking about this, when you actually understand what it is, you come to realize it has nothing to do with Christianity. It has nothing to do with any of the religions. It is described as a force that exists in nature, because this is the force of entropy. This is the force of involution. This is the force of fear. This is the force that stagnates consciousness, that stagnates development. This is the force of chaos. This is the force that destroys freedom. There's the force that destroys will. There's the force that destroys good. This force has been described in mythology an infinite amount of times. You can go look at, the Sumerian, Akkadian tradition. You had freaking Beelzebub. You had Hadad. You had Baal. If you want to look at in Zoroaster, you had Ahura Mazda, who was the main deity, and you had the adversary force, who was named Ahriman. Hey, you want to look at the Egyptian culture? You had Horus versus Set. Set, he was the adversary force, that represented darkness, that represented chaos, that came out at nighttime, when the sun set. And another name of this, of this force was Apep. And then it's also described in a feminine essence. You had Eris, from the Greek traditions, that causes strife and chaos. And then you also had, her nemesis. Again, you're talking about forces in nature. And these forces exist because it's up to the individual who has free will to decide with discernment and judgment which force they want to align with. So when we talk about the satanic force, what are you actually opposing? Because again, if you are the adversary, that means you're going against something. You are resisting something. You are plotting to go up against something. So what are you actually opposing? So all these dumb fucks who are talking about moral relativism, what are you actually opposing? You are opposing the true objectival knowledge which can be discerned, understood, of morality, natural law, goodness, and truth. So what does it mean to resist something? Because that's what to oppose something means. It means for you to resist. So what does resistant means? It means to oppose and to hinder. So you can prove this. You can actually verify this in fucking reality by looking at the resistance that humanity is reaping from creation. Is humanity getting the things that we say we want, like goodness, freedom, a good society, true love and prosperity? No, we're getting none of those fucking things. We're getting absolutely fucking none of those things. But we claim we want them. We say we want them. Well, then if we say we want them and we claim we want them, why the fuck are we not getting them? Well, obviously, we are not aligned to the correct manifestation which will birth and give you those things. So then you can logically, reasonably deduce, if you don't have fucking brain damage, that the force that we are aligned to is not the force of fucking goodness. It's not the force of fucking truth. It's not the force of fucking natural law. And you see this in the effects and the consequences that are manifesting in fucking reality. More and more suffering, man-made suffering, more and more loss of rights, more and more loss of fucking freedom. We're seeing more and more confusion. We're seeing more and more of the inversion of things. Everyone says, well, things are upside down. Well, what the fuck do you think satanic is? It means the adversary to plot against, to turn things upside down. Everyone talks about the fucking clown world, but they'll never really associate it and pinpoint it to the causal factor that people have been birthed into the satanic mindset. They'll never make this fucking connection. because they have fucking brain damage. They're not fucking intelligent. We are literally dealing with dumb fucking people. Dumb fucking people who don't want to know, who don't want to care, and they don't want to fucking be responsible for themselves. And this is the reason why. It's because of this bullshit false fucking axiom that, oh, man just gets to determine what's fucking right. Or, rights are based upon, whatever culture decides. Well, hell, again, just look at actual physical slavery when it was somehow considered moral. Just go look at, what happened in fucking Germany. When people, thought that it was somehow good and moral to do this to a minority group of people. I mean, just fucking take the time to actually think about it. But it's hard to actually process and discern information correctly when you take in shit information, you take in shit for your fucking diet, you live in a shit fucking environment, you have aluminum, brontium, and strontium just running all through those fucking neural pathways, which actually damages the fucking neurons in your goddamn brain. This is why people can't logically process this fucking information. And they'll buy into this fucking bullshit. And it's fucking everywhere. It's like 99.99 of the dumbass fucking species spewing this bullshit. Literally just shitting all over the fucking place, man. It's fucking tiresome. And it's fucking pathetic that any human being will actually buy into this bullshit. Because according to the fucking moral relativists, you can justify any fucking behavior. You will let any behavior go underneath the fucking radar. Well then, a man can go out there and rape a fucking child. A man can go out there and rape a fucking woman. And then you fucking justify that bullshit. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, man. Because if it was happening to you and your loved ones, I guarantee you will be the first one bitching and complaining. But then your fucking mindset is associated with the same fucking individual who did the fucking wrongdoing. People can't even connect the fucking dots accurately. Can't even connect. Like, I'm telling you, we're dealing with literally fucking brain dead people. Literally fucking brain dead people. If you can't accurately discern fucking what's right and wrong in reality, you can't be an intelligent person. By law, by definition, you can't. Because to be a truly intelligent being, both hemispheres of the brain have to be accessed and working correctly. And to have true intelligence, the right hemisphere of the brain should be able to see the bigger picture, the creative outlet, not just the whole, how logical part, with the left brain. True intelligence, birthing of the new brain, the neocortex, where judgment, reason, higher forms of thought, and morality lay in the prefrontal cortex. Like literally, people have fucking brain damage. And we have to give the social engineers and the Satanists and the dark occultists a round of applause because they have literally done something that I didn't even think was fucking possible. Literally giving people brain damage by way of food, water, air, and just living in a shitty fucking environment. People will admit that the condition is slavery. People will admit it. I've had people to my face admit that the conditions are slavery. Then in the next fucking breath will totally contradict themselves and say, well, we just need to put the right person in fucking office. Brain damage. Fucking brain damage. How can you fucking contradict yourself when you just fucking, you just admitted that the condition is slavery. And then in the next breath, you say, well, in order to fix the condition, we just have to fucking put another slave master in office. Like, these are the kind of people that we're dealing with, man. Because again, moral relativism is the ideology of fucking slavery. It's the ideology of slavery, and it's the ideology which destroys and kills life. Because just look at how we buy into moral relativism and look how we treat other species. Look how we treat the fucking planet. Moral relativism is the ideology of I don't fucking give a shit. And that's the ideology of the satanic mindset. I don't give a shit. I only care about myself. Me. Because that's what we're fucking dealing with. People saying, I get to determine what's right. I get to fucking determine what's moral. I'm God. I'm the creator. I'm the judge and executioner. I get to dictate what's real in reality and fucking true. And honestly, lastly, the ones who actually know that objective morality is real and have proven it because they have discovered it and they have actually gone through the process of truth discovery, we need to stop being pussies when people start spewing this nonsense. And we need to be more fucking confrontational. I mean, are you just gonna let someone pull down their pants and just start shitting right next to you? Just start pissing right next to you? Or why the fuck would you allow that person to start spewing off at the mouth, just spewing fucking bullshit rhetoric, when you know that this bullshit is what leads to the destruction of all life forms? Why? We need to fucking stop being pushy about it and start calling these fucking bullshitters out to their fucking faces and saying this fucking truth and grow a fucking backbone, man. Because this ideology is going to destroy us. And people are just acquiescing to it, just sitting down to it and not doing the fucking damn thing and too afraid to get in fucking people's faces. If you're a bullshit, if you're a bullshit eater and you're spewing this shit, stay the fuck away from me. Don't even come in my vicinity because shit may actually get fucking confrontational. Because again, why would you allow someone to come into that spewing ideology, spewing satanic ideology that you know fucking destroys life? This is the ideology that has brought down every great civilization throughout history. What, you think we're any fucking different? What? I mean, people don't think that moral relativism fucking ain't gonna bring down hell the United States of hell America. I mean, just look at what's happening all over the fucking globe. And again, if you're a dumbass flat earther, stay the fuck away because you're just another fucking dumbass person with fucking brain damage. But again, why do we put up with this bullshit? Michael Tessarion, he once said, we should have zero tolerance for the lie. We should go further. We should have zero tolerance for the evil, zero tolerance for the immorality, zero tolerance for the fucking deceivers, zero tolerance for the satanic mindset. But people have become too soft, man. People have become really fucking too soft. And your softness is what's leading to the puncturing of the existence of humanity. You see, when you have that hardened, toughened skin, it's harder for any kind of force to come in and puncture it. But when you're soft, when you have that delicate sensibility, anything can puncture that. This is why we should be firm in our fucking principles. We should be firm in our fucking knowledge. We should be firm in our foundation because we stand on fucking what's right, what's good, what's moral, what's true. We can't pussyfoot around these motherfuckers. Hell, as they're fucking literally destroying all life fucking on this planet. Just tired of this shit, man. Fucking tired of it.
Jim, you up next?
Yeah, well, it's not really much to say after that for sure. I mean, where I've kind of left off with like people I know is I've just said, you don't get it. They'd get angry at me because I'd say you don't get it. Like there's like what like I'm saying like I'm smarter than them or like what do you know that I don't know? I'm bad. It's like, you just literally don't get it. Like like Brandon was saying, like they have brain damage, but like that's kind of where I started. Is like people don't even understand what these words even mean in the first place. But it is programming. Like we all were programmed. Repetition is key. All right. So I mean, even for us, repetition is we keep talking about this stuff because that's how it changes minds. Repetition. But people are so indoctrinated and programmed and like Brandon said there, the satanic mindset, gotta give him a hand of applause. But that's that's the way it is, right? It's what we're up against. Um, you know, I'm curious to know, like, Brandon, like, with the gray area, I thought it was a good way to explain that is like the satanic mindset to like you, because even if you tell people that they have the satanic mindset, then they get all caught up in like they don't even know what Satanism really is. And they're like they don't get that. So I mean for me I was just like the gray area is what you guys keep using as a justification, and it is the mind virus that is causing all the problems in the world. But I also obviously get that it's not even like real. The gray area that they're using isn't like when you talk about initiating harm, but they don't get it. And like they're not gonna do all this. They're so programmed and they're not gonna seek out the knowledge. Um, so I was just trying to come up with ways to bring some kind of awareness to what the root cause is and make it make sense, you know? But over and over, it's just like you said, you should have voted. Like that's what people tell me. Oh no, you should have voted. Like I'm like, okay, you don't get it. If you're telling me that I should have voted, then that's how things were gonna change. It's like after all this time of what I'm repeatedly saying, it's like you don't get it. And I'm like, I guess I I don't think I'm the smartest person I know. I feel like I must have brain damage, but for some reason I was able to understand this. Um, I was able to, it clicked for me about morality and how that is the cause, and it's a mind. The consciousness is creating our reality. Um, I mean, what was I gonna say? It's that I must have posted over 20 things on the Instagram that said right and wrong above it in all different ways, and no one fucking got it. No one got it. And I think I did it intentionally, knowing that no one was gonna get it, to see if anyone maybe could get it. But I even knew I came up with so many different ways to say the same thing, and no one got it. So I don't know. I'm ending it there.
Whatever happened to the good old phrase, you got to get it while the getting's good. And there's been so much good information, rather great information out there, as we've alluded to dozens of times. We always flash our QR code, One Great Work Warriors on TapLink. There's all our information threads, tied to the One Great Work Network as well, and some other affiliates like the good old Freedom Under Natural Law conferences and Seed and whatever it be. Yeah, Jim, that's it's atrocious that folks and yeah, folks just aren't getting it. And I'm thinking about what I'm going to say in regards to just human evolution to a degree, but it's just the human evolution, quote unquote, has been so contrived and controlled on some really deep occult levels, like off-world shit, and like folks like David Icke allude to it. It's not just the motherfucking reptiles, but the fallen draconian Anunnaki motherfuckers, Omicron, the list goes on. But not to speak till dawn because it's 4 o'clock in the morning, but just speaking about human nature or harming nature, how humans can harm nature. And I'm thinking about the video that we did in regards to the book Ishmael or Ismail, in regards to how there's takers and leavers. At what degree, right? Thinking about the law of polarity, are we allowed to, take certain things and leave enough for the earth to replenish? Because this world is so abundantly, powerfully bountiful. And if we treat her right and are in harmony with the elements, we're good to fucking go. This world is underpopulated in regards to how big it is, to the contrary of like overpopulation. There's just, high concentrations of areas and a control on all the fucking resources, including the resources within one's fucking consciousness. Going back to the first cosmic law principle of mentalism, which is, like how governments, etymologically speaking, first and foremost. So that's the definition, and their modus operandi is to control the mind, because they know more than the general population that it all goes back to mind, mentalism. One state of mind is going to, like Brandon mentioned, it's going to manifest, results in reality. And for the most part, how fucking negative have they been? But, over time, we've learned from trials and tribulations of how much we can take, excavate, and cultivate without causing permanent damage to ecosystems, and or, you know, accruing or, stacking up negative effects on us, on people. And obviously the whole symbiotic relationship we have with all living entities, and the elementals as well. So yeah, there's been that learning process, like trial and error, right? And we've had thousands of years to fucking learn this, and it seems like things are like digressing, it seems like. Anyways, but same with consciousness, because so we have degrees of how extreme people take religion. You have people that are like a fair weather friend of it, and you have those that take it to the literal, word by word thing, and even further than that. And I'm thinking about, some lamestream media examples of, gray areas, you know, a woman getting raped because her appearance was provocatively sexy, according to someone's, subjective perspective, right? But if she never consented to anything sexual, then yeah, it's total rape, and some people are just given a slap on the wrist. Or like this one case in Pakistan I just saw yesterday. Uh, they were caught. The prison sentence was, or the penalty of the rapist was that his sister had to be raped in front of 40 witnesses. So it's just trauma on fucking trauma on fucking trauma, violating more fucking rights, and just like, and then some. And so people find gray areas of morality in that. Are you fucking, yeah, totally brain dead, right? Not to, lambast this, because it's so easy. It's like fucking low hanging fucking fruit that's been rotted, off the wicked tree, with all the wickedry. And speaking of wickedry, what about all this fucking devilry, right? And people like believing that there's no such thing as evil. The fucking mind virus is going on. It's like this worm that's eating the fucking apple in someone's brain that's rotted, right? Maggots and shit. So what about this one? The gray areas of choosing not to get quaccinated, or rather vaccinated, versus, what they're saying, the herd, we need to get the herd immunity. all these anti-vaxxers are a threat to humanity because they're not immunized or whatever. And this is happening, across the world, but especially in America, where we hear a lot about it. In the Vaca Nation, Vaca literally meaning cow, of the herd mentality indoctrinated into herd immunity, the farcical crap, while getting herded like cattle into human biowarfare slaughterhouses known as pharmakia, the allopathic assholes up in hospitals, and the total oppression of homeopathic alternatives that we should be having the foundation on. Anyways, oh, but there's so much gray area because like, people think that a human being of a pure-blooded human being who's not an anti-vaxxer, they just know that is fucking poison, and we don't want that in our body. That's a violation upon our own bodily autonomy, motherfucker. What about like pro-choice and my body first or whatever the fuck you all been gallivanting around? Yet when it comes to other things, yeah, double standards, and yeah, that's not moral. So yeah, I think people have a lot of confusion and lack clarity on human psychology, and it's just easier for them to have this simpleton, there's all this gray area shit, instead of really understanding objective fucking morality, right? And it seems like people don't understand consent in contrast to violations of rights, right or wrong. We're not up here trying to act like we have all the fucking answers. We're just trying to align to capital T fucking truth and the objective principles, laws of nature and morality that exist. They're out there. We just need to, be living through and through with them, through our soul, our hearts, that generative principle that I mentioned before, right? So there's a lot we need to question within ourselves and in society in general, right? Ask, who is being harmed, and who was the aggressor. People want to throw in so much gray bullshit because they lack gray matter in their brain, possibly, like Brandon mentioned, of well, what were their intentions and this and that. But apparently good intentions can still build a pathway to hell, or whatever the smell. What's a gray magician? I forget the episode, Brandon, but you totally knocked it out the park in regards to the differences between a white magician, a gray magician, or the dark magician, meaning like the dark magic and all that inverted satanic shit, right? People need to look into that and not be so stuck in the fucking gray area. Get into the pure aspects of things. You have to fucking alchemize that shit. The calcination burns to that hot white, and then there's 6 more stages where you have to go through and distill that shit, get it separated. Well, I'm kind of skipping around, but anyways, to finish up, yeah, that's all I have. I had something written down, but it's too sloppy, and I think we've covered this topic quite thoroughly already, and we still have some more folks to talk to. So yeah, Chris, what's good? Miss you out there in NorCal, Redding. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Derek. Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about this topic after having various discussions with folks. And some of the folks I've spoken with, I think about the person I know who, that a person who is striving to live well. Let's put it that way. I could think of several individuals who I've had this difficult conversation with regarding morality and whether it's objective and whether, and a lot of times we get stuck on this 50 shades of gray discussion because of a person can think of exceptions right away in their mind that make it difficult to define what's morally the right thing to do or wrong thing to do. They're right away thinking about the actions and how difficult it might be in various situations. Then, because we can come up with these exceptionary ideas in our head, then that must invalidate this whole concept that there is indeed something in the universe that is static and not changing and not affected by our own thoughts and feelings, right? And so I've had to really analyze like the psychology of this, and I've one thing that I've come to recognize is it does really tie into the collectivist lifestyle that we're living, and as Brendan's saying, the satanic ideology we're born into, which is we're born into a slavery. And just saying that, I could say that 9 out of 10 or more people that might have the option to watch or listen to me say this would be very taken aback by that, and they wouldn't agree with it. They wouldn't agree that we've been born into slavery. That sounds way too harsh. We're still under the impression, the general public, mainstream people I've talked to and hear talking, that freedom is a thing that we have here in the States, and that's what makes it so great. And we're trying to make it greater by having more freedom again, right? But that might involve us having to conscript your child and send him to war, and another one of our, ethnic cleansing plans. What it really the problem is, when I think about it deeply, is being born into this collectivist way of thinking. And you hear it all the time when you get in discussions with people. We need term limits, like they're coming up with these solutions. We need to vote in the right person. We need to bomb those people. We need to get all those people out of the streets. Like there's constantly, we've been so accustomed to thinking in this manner that we are going to do these things, right? And it's not actually you or me that's going to be out there doing that. It's we, as in our country or our government, right? And that's really what we're trying to break down here, at least me. I don't really think that I'm going to be able to end government, just with some words I'm saying. I'd love to. But that's not the realistic progression of the way things work in reality. First, we have to understand something before we can do something. You can't build a house if you don't understand how a house is built, right? I mean, you could go at it, but you're going to get a shit show if you have no idea. So we have to understand this on a deeper level. And that's kind of why I was pointing out in my other bit there that there's still literally people writing books about a philosophy that makes no sense, that doesn't hold up to logic, that's ridiculous, right? But partly because humanity's still living out these ridiculous ideas and concepts, and people are still being born into it to the point where they can live their whole lifetime and never really be objective about that fact that they were born into a slavery system, and that this authoritarian mindset of forcing people to believe what you believe or do what you think they should do, and not mean you, but we, right? And this collective we. So it takes it takes my own personal connection with my conscience, my divine connection, I call it. That to me really is the bridge between the physical and the mental, right? When you connect your physical body and you have your body in good shape and you're able to relax it and let your mind do its thing, and there's this in between that's non physical, right? And there's a lot of silliness that comes out of Hollywood and TV about using your imaginative brain, right? Imagination. But we know that any invention came from someone pushing the boundaries of what people already knew at that point. So what I'm suggesting really is that we need to invent a new way of thinking, which is really not new. It's the oldest way of thinking that ever existed. It's what we would have been doing before people started thinking about this concept of what if we make an organization that controls everybody within a certain boundary, and all those people have to give a percentage of their time and money, and then whoever winds up at the top of the structure gets to make the harder decisions, right? Like, and we have a system of voting where at least half the people decide who that's going to be, when in reality it all breaks down and it doesn't wind up being even that fair, which wasn't fair to begin with. It winds up being whoever has the money and the power, or the most psychopathic person who doesn't give a crap about what's right and wrong, can be the owner and the ruler of this whole collective ridiculous belief system that we've been born into and accustomed to believing, and so accustomed to that, like you guys are describing, when we try to talk to someone about how would we be in a world where we each had the respect and the value as an individual, that I could say, I don't want to take part in the killing of people in another place. Therefore, none of my time or energy should go towards that. I'm super decisive about that. And yet we live in a world where people are saying, no, you can't do that. We're going to come and take that money from you, and that time, somehow or another, if we have to put you in jail, if we have to, whatever we have to do, because you live here, part of your money and time and energy is going to go towards these objectives, this collective objective of our state, right? And this is the biggest evil in the world currently, because it's not just the day-to-day, like the person I'm talking to, who I'm trying to explain objective morality to. This everyday person is not the one out there, in most cases, shooting people, right, or kidnapping people. It's select few people that are willing to do those type of jobs, and those people are in the most danger for their own soul, right? And they're also causing the most problem for the future of all humanity. And so the sooner we all accept that we have to take on this awareness, this realization, this philosophy change, where we don't look at it from the perspective of we are going to do this, we are going to do this, of what am I going to do? And what do I think is right deep down, when I really think about it from my imagination point of view and from my logical point of view, and meld those together, and then also listen to what other people are saying and put it into context, right? All those things are important. But it does mean a whole reinvention of the ability of the way we look at we live, and to be open to questioning that. And that's where I think people are genuinely stuck, because it's just, you can't get that perspective unless you're willing to really let go of the existing society and world, and understand that this is a philosophy hyper jump. It's a hyper jump into a different way of looking at it, and I don't really know how to do that in talking to other people, but I know that we need to keep working on it, because, like you guys are pointing out, humanity's not getting it. We don't got it. Slavery situation is impending doom, seems to be around the corner, likelihood getting worse and worse all the time. And so war and violence is still going on a massive scale. Children being kidnapped, human trafficking, these things are going on a massive scale. And we really got to work on the philosophy of how we look at our relationship to morality in order to change this dynamic long term. And so the future of humanity does depend on each one of us being that drop in the bucket to rethink this out, and to be willing to step into a different way of looking at it, and not be trapped by that authoritarian groupthink. So I don't know. I'm going to pass it on. Jerry.
Yeah, it's a great points, Chris. Everyone else, I don't even know what to say. That absolutely moral relativism makes no sense at all. Here's one example, okay? Say, country A, there's this person. Okay. Say there's the set of the man's law in this country. Somehow he gets kidnapped, and now he's in country B. But in country B, murder is okay. Like, just like say the wrongs, the natural law wrongs are actually like in that country they consider that to be moral. So like now this person, if he doesn't murder, steal, shit like that, like that's considered wrong. And I mean, yeah, and this person he might think like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Like he will get that gut feeling that murder is wrong. So that's just like one example that I'm thinking of how can I like explain that this idea is just ridiculous. And I don't know, man. I mean, I'm still learning myself about these kind of harder situations to discern whether an action is correct or not. I'll give an example real quick, right? So I'm driving and basically I'm about to merge into this lane. There's like lots of traffic and there's a car behind me and I'm still learning to like drive the manual car. So anyways, the guy behind me, he like beeping at me, so I just go ahead and I have to kind of turn immediately to the left so I can kind of do a U. And in doing so, I saw my opportunity to merge into the lane all the way to the left. And, the guy beeped at me because I don't know if that's like considered me cutting him off. So I'm thinking to myself, like, is that like a wrongdoing, me cutting someone off in traffic? But like my case is situations like that, they take like some time and reflection. And that's not an excuse to say objective morality doesn't exist. That's nonsense. So I guess thinking is required, right? It's a good thing to have. As far as your point, Chris, to getting to people, I think the Socratic method is super important. Just asking questions because apparently they don't care about facts. And the thing I was thinking of was the Plato's cave metaphor that they're just entertained by the shadows on the wall. And then the guy tells them the truth that they're basically chained and that's not reality. And then he gets murdered, right? Because I think that the people who were in the cave were very uncomfortable by that truth and they just wanted to get back to what they were familiar with. I think that's the case with the moral relativists. And something else is, you can have someone, okay, I'll say this. You can know what right is and still not do it. So there's that aspect of it. So we have to kind of align what we know with our actions. It's kind of being an integrity sort of thing. But I've seen people, of course, oh yeah, morality is objective, moral relativity makes no sense. Yet they still believe in government. It's like, dude, double standards. And mm, yeah, I don't even know what else to say. But yeah, I mean, asking questions is really important. Get them fucking thinking. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you think by asking questions. And yeah, so the Socratic method is important. And I guess just kind of listening to what they're saying, because if they actually take the time to think about it, I don't think they've even taken the time to think about it. It's kind of like in a sales call, the salesperson asks the questions most of the time, and the person on the other end talks. And there's usually lots of what I'm thinking of is the iceberg, right? Like you see the tip of the iceberg, you think that's the problem, but it's usually like the iceberg, like it goes underwater, so there's like a ton that you're not seeing. So by the person thinking about object or moral relativism and how they even came to that conclusion, like maybe they could start peeling the layers off. So I'm encouraging asking these people questions. Obviously, like as Brandon was saying, we can't pussyfoot around this. It's one of the things I came across is, knowing the truth but not really speaking it. I think that's a problem right there. So I'm glad that Brandon addressed that. It might be a good segue to Brandon.
Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should do something. And the problem is people, like when we talk about the grammar and the actual trivium stage, we are literally talking about grammar. You have to go back and analyze speech in the English language itself. You see, when we say the word right, people don't understand it has a variation of context. Just like in Jerry's case, Jerry, something can be incorrect and still be right at the same time. And what do I mean by that? It can be incorrect is you probably shouldn't have done that, but it's still right because it didn't lead to anything as far as the 7 natural law transgressions. And you see, this is again the dumb fuckery that we're dealing with. Because again, if there is no loss of property rights, it is not morally wrong. But that doesn't mean that we should be cutting people off in fucking traffic, because then that could lead to the loss of property rights. And again, understand the context when we're talking about incorrect and incorrect, because again, something can be incorrect as in morally wrong, just as though something can be incorrect as in, you probably shouldn't have done that in that situation, but it's still a fucking right. Again, go back to the actual grammar and the structure of the language, to truly understand what the context is and right. Go to the etymology. Go to what a verb means. Go to what a noun means. Go to what an adjective means to truly understand the grammar. That is the only way you can get to correct logic. That is the only way you can get to correct right rhetoric in the form of action and behavior. This really has to be understood in order for people to truly understand what the fuck I'm trying to, come across and present, what Chris Nelson has put into the world. And I'm sure, this is what Passio, is talking about when we're talking about how the grammar is. You have to be correct in your grammar to truly understand, because when we say the term right to most people, they don't associate it with an adjective and a verb. They just associate it with one. But in the context, what is the context is being used? This is what has led to a lot of dysfunctionality in our Telegram group, because dumb fuckeries were coming into the group with incorrect grammar, and then they're trying to associate, because you are using, different words, to define. You don't have to use the same words to define a term. You don't. It's understand the concept. Once you understand the concept, you can use different words to define it. That doesn't take away from the actual definition. Again, brain damage, people. And here's the reason why I say people have fucking brain damage. It's because when you talk about true health, what does the word health mean? What does it mean to be healthy? It means wholeness. Okay. Can someone have physical good health but have terrible mental health? Yes, because the mind and the body are connected. You can't have one without the fucking other. So if you are taking in poisonous information, toxic information, can you truly be healthy? Fuck no, you can't. It is an in fucking possibility for someone to be truly healthy but taking in toxic information, just as though someone can never be truly healthy if they taking good information, but they taking toxic shit into the fucking body. They live in a toxic environment, because that's what the word healthy means. It means wholeness. So the mind, the body, and the spirit have to be connected on the integral level in order to truly be fucking healthy. Well, you can't have a fucking healthy mind if you're in a polarized mindset. You can't, because what does it mean to be in the polarized mindset? It means that there is a split, there is a disconnect, there is a schism. Well, what is the satanic mind? What is the satanic mindset always putting out into reality? Polarized dialectics. This is why I say people have fucking brain damage, because they're so fucking polarized, because they bought into all forms of fucking dialectics, which disconnects you and puts you in the term internal mental schism. And in this form of schism, you can't logically process knowledge. You can't accurately discern. You can't correctly take in information with your senses so it can be processed through, hell, the central nervous system and pushed up to the neocortex. No, a lot of that gets fucking stunted. Hell, a lot of that it never even gets to the fucking neocortex because it probably hits the R complex and it hits the fucking limbic system, and then it's like, oh, process this. That's not what it means to have a healthy mindset, because you're not actually going through the human dynamic of using the neocortex for higher forms of thought. This is why people are so fucking emotional. This is why people react on such a, animalistic emotional mindset, because they are broken. They literally have fucking brain damage and they are fucking unhealthy. So let's analyze this satanic mindset. And what better place else to start than by looking in the fucking mirror? The satanic mindset is the service to self, service to money. I just want more money, me and my situation. So be honest with yourself and ask yourself, are you in the satanic mindset? Because I can 100% say that in one point of time I was. Because, like I say, we're born into it. But I had to dispel and remove this way of thinking. And the only way that I could do that was to truly understand what true consciousness is, what true awareness is, what it truly means to be good, what it truly means to be right. So I had to take in the complete opposite information. Then therefore I could start to erode and break down and dispel this mindset that I myself had. I had this mindset, and I realized that I had this mindset. Thankfully, when I came across Pascal's work and other individuals' work, I didn't just say, "Oh, well, everyone has this mindset and not me." No, I saw this mindset in myself, and I had to be real and honest with myself and say I had bought into it. Couldn't blame no one else but myself. I had bought into the satanic mindset. Then therefore, I had to realize that I was a dumb fuck. I had to realize that I was actually fucking retarded. And then I had to go through the steps and the process to erode and break down this false information, this false worldview, these false axioms of the satanic mindset, which is the service to self, which is the moral relativistic mindset. Ask yourself this question. Am I spewing satanic rhetoric? Am I buying into this satanic mindset? Again, it's not it was pushed on you. You bought into it. Take 100% full responsibility. You bought into it. Well, let's look at other aspects of this deplorable fucking society. Is government. Is government stuck into the satanic mindset? Well, damn, you don't have to be a fucking genius. You don't need 20/20 vision to realize it is 100% absolutely definitively stuck into this satanic mindset. Every individual in government, from the lowest level, from the janitors, to the average desk clerks, all the way up to the highest fucking, psychopath, how the president, how it was just a euphemism for the king. All the senators, they are all in the satanic mindset, because what do they propagate? We get to create what's moral. We get to dictate what is right. We get to legislate what is correct and acceptable. And you must align to it. You must bow down to it, or else. That's violence. That's coercion. That's duress. Well, let's look at religion. Is religion stuck into the satanic mindset? Because you can't leave these fucktards out. Of course, religion is stuck into the satanic mindset, because it's all service to self. They'll say, the higher ups will say, "Oh, we are allowed to do these behaviors. We are the chosen ones. You must bow down. You must obey. You must do this." It's service to self. And then they'll even go as far as to say, this book is what creates rights. Rights didn't exist before our religion. I've actually had a Christian person tell me morality didn't exist until the Bible came about. Again, you're spewing satanic rhetoric. Again, brain damage, dumb fuckery, dumb fucking people. Let's look at corporations. Let's look at corporations, which, it's just a corpse, but corporations, are they spewing satanic rhetoric? I don't know if you ever gone through, like any corporate building. It's all about service to self. It's all about service to self. CEOs and politicians and presidents, they were some of the most recognized jobs that were ran by psychopaths. So if you have psychopaths at the top, then you're going to have psychopaths at the bottom who are going to try to work their way up into that level. And that's what it's all about, is working your way up. And the higher you make it up into that system, the more satanic ideology you're going to buy into. Are these corporations actually worried about truth and goodness and, actually doing something that's moral, of true value? No, they're all about bringing in more revenue, bringing in more money, polluting the earth and, stepping over, anybody fucking who they can. Let's look at the medical field. Are they concerned with actual true goodness and truly making people healthy, truly making people whole? No. Look no further than the bullshit we just went through a couple of years ago with COVID. They were all worried about making more money and dancing on fucking TikTok. And again, if anyone watches TikTok, you're fucking stupid. You're brain dead. I mean, like TikTok just used as it was always used as a symbol for hypnosis and mind control. But, people are so busy deep throating their phones, watching those TikTok shorts, and they love it. Have just about as much as they're deep throating the state, just loving that TikTok jizz. Hell, well, they love that government jizz. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, people. But in the medical field, they only care about more money. Because if people were truly fucking healthy, if people were truly whole, they would be out of a fucking job. And I actually experienced this because my mom had knee surgery early this year. It was her choice, I didn't want her to do it. But hell, she was in the recovery room, and the Christian nurse came in there, and she just spewing shit, hell about Jesus. And fuck, I'm in the hospital, so I have to kind of fucking acquiesce to shit because it's gonna be a fucking price to pay. I couldn't even take my firearm in there. That's already a fucking problem in there. And that's the problem is that's the problem with government is you have to fucking no matter who you are, this is the reality, is when you go fucking onto their property, you have to obey. Doesn't matter who the fuck you are. That's the unfortunate, sad truth. So I'm already fucking disarmed, fuck, I just can't start. Like, woman, you're for me, you are so fucking indoctrinated. You are so fucking mind controlled, because then she's going to call the fucking goons, and then shit's going to get fucking rough. And then my mom's not going to have a fucking way home. Just had knee surgery. She can't fucking drive. But the woman literally says, thanks for paying my bills. I wanted to say, you satanic heifer, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, man. Like, literally tells us, thank you for paying my bills. Like, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, man. Like, tired of the service itself, only worshiping fucking money. This was a Christian woman putting mammon on the fucking pedestal in a total fucking contradiction. Let's look at order followers. Let's look at the fucking military. These dumb robots, who just fucking do what the fuck they're told. Are they actually expressing true conscience? Because to truly be a good person, you have to actually express conscience. Are they actually creating anything that's good? Are they concerned about true freedom? Are they concerned about true goodness? Are they concerned about the well-being of humanity and other life forms and the planet? No, they're not. They're fucking robots. All you have to do is just put in the fucking order, and they'll beep, 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 beep. Yes, sir. Bang, 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 bang. Who do I need to kill next? Same thing with these fucking cops. These fucking order followers. So fucking dumb, so fucking stupid, and it's extremely fucking dangerous. Extremely fucking dangerous. You can't even have a conversation with cops nowadays because their egos are fucking bigger than their fucking bigger than their paychecks that are, based on stolen money. Like there's a reason why cops have these fucking egos now. And it's all by fucking design, because that's all that we're talking about is the ideology of the ego. People putting their egos on pedestal, thinking that they're God. I get to do, fuck, I can discern what's right. I can make up what's right. It's not about discovery and seeing the consequences and the behaviors that follow. No, no, no. It's about my ego and what I fucking say. And last but not least, we have to start calling out a lot of these big time influencers, and this is what Mark Passio has been talking about recently. And this is why I don't even listen to a lot of these big time fucking influencers. I just don't. Because a lot of them are fucking satanic. They're spewing out satanic rhetoric. They'll talk about the next political thing that happens because of what? It brings in more views. It brings in more likes. It brings in more revenue. But will they actually talk about the dynamics that will lead to human freedom and the dynamic that will lead to human slavery? No. Are they actually talking about the law of freedom? Fuck no. All the people who are talking about rights can't even fucking accurately discern what true rights are. But again, those are the same idiots that are deep throating the state. And that's why you see that state propaganda, that state jizz, he'll spewing out of all of the orifices. We really have got to do fucking better, man. These fucking big time influencers could actually do some actual good in the world, but they know, people subconsciously know deep down within their being that if they actually start talking about true fucking morality, of course that would be after they understood it, which would take fucking thousands of hours, because that's really what it takes to truly understand this is thousands of hours. But they know, here's what happened to their likes. Shit will fucking plummet. Their likes will plummet faster and jump off a cliff faster than what humanity is. They will start losing their income, start losing their sponsors, and start losing all of their subscribers. Because again, people prefer the shock value, the shock entertainment. And that's the satanic mindset. The pleasure, the addiction to pleasure, that's the satanic mindset. Their egos are so addicted to this pleasure, this shock and awe, this shock and value. They can't let go of it. And that's why we see so many dumb fucks watching these short ass fucking shits on TikTok and fucking YouTube shorts. It's for the shock value, because their brains are so fucking calcified. They can't sit down and properly access and originally take in true, knowledgeable, accurate content. But the short-term content, oh man, that just feeds the fucking dopamine. And that's what they are fucking hell addicted to. And they want more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And that's why they just scroll. Dumb fuckery. Dumb shits. And again, let's just call these people for what they fucking really are. This is the reason why the Satanists want to exterminate humanity. And let's be honest, people are dumb as fuck. People, the Satanists at the top, the social engineers, are 100% correct in their assessment that people are dumb as fuck. Now, where I disagree with them is people shouldn't be exterminated because they're still morally wrong. But they are 100% correct on people are dumb as fuck, man. Absolutely fucking dumb as fuck. We have to create a new name. We have to create a new word to describe how Bartolo is and how people just accept it. It's like the degeneracy from years ago, which was, kept in the darkness. Now that's just fucking everywhere, man. People just throwing out, their morals everywhere. And they think that it's fine. They think that it's okay. They'll try to push it on other people, and other people won't fucking react. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you truly are a good person, if you truly are a moral person, you truly, know what right and wrong is, and you are aligned to it, then it's time for you to start speaking out. It really is. Because it's like, how much more worse do things have to get? And things are going to get worse. Because like I say, people just have to fucking suffer. Because if people wanted to know, then they'd fucking know by now. If you wanted to know, you know by now. Because you would have cared to have seeked out the information. Just like I have, just like y'all have, just like how many individuals on the One Great Work Network, and just like the many teachers, who came before us. We're not anything special. We don't have any magical powers. Hell, we bleed just like y'all. Hell, we shit just like y'all. The only thing is we don't have that government jizz spewing out of our orifice like y'all do. That's the only fucking difference. And we adhere to fucking natural law. And unfortunately, y'all adhere to fucking man's law. And I'm done.
And that concludes this episode of the One Great Work Warriors. Folks, put your mind to the test. You know, for every star out there, there's a justification for not doing the hard work of discerning right and wrong and working towards that future where we can strive for freedom and peace. And that's going to involve the hard work of every individual possible. And so the challenge is to you to take that step and learn and work towards understanding natural law, explaining it to others, and do what we can do. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.